Hi guys. So today we're telling the story of a woman who was convicted and sentenced to death alongside her family pastor for the conspiracy for murder and murder of her husband, who was killed in 2013. Their judgment came in 2019. But this woman chose to explore the long road to freedom. You don't want to miss the story, trust me. So sometimes in 2013, right, a woman, Mrs. Eniobong Isonguyo, made an official complaint at the police station of her husband going missing. And the police began to look into it, and a few days after her report was made, her husband was found along the Sapele Benin Road. He wasn't just found, he was found dead. Now, he wasn't just dead, he was burnt to death in his vehicle. Now, the police began to look into what exactly happened to him. The husband's name was Mr. Engineer Victor Gabriel Isonguyo. He was a director with the NNPC, Nigerian National Petroleum Company in Benin. And the family of Engineer Victor suspected foul play because it was said that prior to his death, he had complained to his family that he wasn't sure he was responsible for the fourth pregnancy his wife was carrying. They had 3 children before his death, and his wife was carrying the fourth pregnancy, the fourth child, but he wasn't sure he was responsible for that pregnancy because he was said to have been away for a long time. So how could she have gotten pregnant in his absence? And the husband had also reported Eniobong to her own family on his suspicion that she was having an affair with their pastor, Pastor Udoka Ukachukwu. Now, the police, hearing all this, decided to look deeper into the matter. While they were investigating the matter, it was discovered again that the new vehicle that the deceased had bought prior to his death was missing from his compound. So the police began to track that vehicle, and they tracked it, guess where? To the pastor's house, Pastor Udoka. And when they got to the pastor's house, Pastor Udoka admitted that he took the vehicle to his house, but one of his daughters in the Lord used the vehicle to sow a seed in the church. The vehicle's plate number had been changed. Now, they asked him to take them to the house of his daughter in the Lord, and the police was shocked to discover that he took them to the house of the deceased. It turned out it was the deceased wife who gave the pastor the car. She did not deny it. She admitted to the police that she used her husband's new car to sow a seed in the church when she noticed her husband had gone missing. She said she loves her husband and she wanted her husband back, so she decided to use his car to sow a seed, and she had to ask the pastor to pray harder. So the police, while interrogating the pastor, also noticed that he had burnt injury on his hand. So they asked him how he came about the burnt injuries, but he couldn't really give a reasonable explanation to the police, and that made the police to even suspect more that something is actually not right. When the police were convinced that the duo had a prima facie case to answer, they charged both of them to an Edo State High Court sitting in Benin. And their trial began. They were charged for conspiracy for murder and also for murder. During the trial, the court was told how Pastor Udoka was asked by the wife of the deceased to go and stand by the road where her husband would pass to work and ask him to give him a ride. And their plan, they said, came to pass as Pastor Udoka did that, and the deceased, unsuspecting, gave Pastor Udoka a ride. And while they were on their journey, Pastor Udoka was said to have brought out a sharp object and stabbed the deceased on the neck, and he then came down from the vehicle and drew fuel from the fuel tank and set the deceased ablaze alongside his vehicle. Pastor Udoka was said to have confessed to the crime. And the court was also told that they carried out this heinous act to cover the pregnancy that the wife of the deceased was carrying, which was allegedly for Pastor Udoka, not for her husband. They said it was a plot to cover the pregnancy since the husband had already started questioning the wife as to who was responsible for the pregnancy. Even worse, he already had suspicion that Eniobong Isonguyo was having an affair with the pastor. So in an attempt to cover up, they were said to have connived and killed the husband. But while the investigation were ongoing and even the trial, only Pastor Udoka admitted to committing the crime. But during the judgment, Justice Geraldine Imade Bello said the prosecution had proven his case beyond reasonable doubt, and she said Pastor Udoka and Mrs. Eniobong were both found guilty as charged, and both of them were sentenced to death by hanging. Now, Mrs. Eniobong Isonguyo believed she was innocent of the charges. As such, she didn't deserve her sentence, so she decided to appeal her conviction via her sentence via her counsel, Mr. Olaiwola Awolabi, and they appealed the decision of the trial court in the Court of Appeal in Benin. And the Court of Appeal went through their appeal. They went through the grounds of appeal, and on the 26th of March 2020, the Court of Appeal decided that the grounds of their appeal were completely unmeritorious. They therefore dismissed their appeal and upheld the conviction and sentence of the trial court. Now, Eniobong Isonguyo, still not satisfied with the outcome of the decision of the Court of Appeal, decided to take another walk, this time around to the apex court of the land, the Supreme Court. And again, she used her counsel, Mr. Awolabi Olaiwola, and they appealed to the Supreme Court. And sometimes in April 2022, a panel of 5 justices of the Supreme Court, led by Justice Mary Odili, delivered a landmark judgment in this matter. So Justice Mary Odili held that there was a miscarriage of justice, as the trial court had convicted the second defendant, that is Eniobong Isonguyo, based on the confession of the first defendant. And it is tried law that you cannot convict an accused based on the confession of a co-accused. So they said there was a miscarriage of justice, and Justice Mary Odili also stated that the decision of the trial court was based on speculation and imagination, which are not part of the criminal code. She therefore discharged and acquitted Eniobong Isonguyo of the charges and the sentence for the murder of her husband. Justice Mary Odili stated that Eniobong Isonguyo should be released from the correctional facility unconditionally. You can imagine, it must have been a surreal moment for her counsel and for Mrs. Eniobong herself. And her counsel, Owolabi, excited over the judgment, proceeded to the correctional facility in Benin on the 5th of May 2022. Meanwhile, Pastor Udoka Ukachukwu, who was convicted with Eniobong in 2019 for the murder of engineer Victor, did escape the prison during the NSAS protests. You know, the NSAS protests when the Benin Correctional Facility was opened and the prisoners escaped. So he was one of the escapees, and he has since been at large. Now, on the 5th of May 2022, Mr. Olaiwola Awolabi, counsel to Eniobong Isonguyo, happily walked into the Benin Correctional Facility and secured the release of his client, Mrs. Eniobong Isonguyo, who at this time had already given birth to the 4th child. And I'm sure it was really a surreal moment for both of them. And Mrs. Eniobong expressed her gratitude when she got out of the prison. She said she got into the prison as a nobody, but she came out, or she was coming out, as an ambassador for Christ. I really, really hope this makes her a true ambassador for Christ, because not everybody gets such judgments. You don't get such landmark judgments from the Supreme Court often. And it is trite law for the judge to err in freeing an accused person than for the judge to err in condemning an innocent person to death. It's important to know that the law is still the hope of the common man. Guys, this is where we draw the curtain. But before then, I want to ask this question. For Pastor Odoka, who had escaped the prison, have the correctional facility made any effort to get him back to serve his sentence? Or it doesn't really matter? Well, this is where we wrap up the story, and I know there will be dissenting opinions on the judgment of the Supreme Court regarding this matter, but I would love to know your thoughts in the comment section. Do you think that was a good judgment? And if you think otherwise, let me know why you think otherwise. Meanwhile, the Supreme Court is the apex court of the land, and anyone who isn't satisfied with the judgment of the Supreme Court can only appeal to God himself, because that is the highest court of the land. Guys, please be good citizens. Be a good citizen. Take care of yourself. Take care of your mental health. Take care of your emotions. Be kind to yourself. Be kind to the people around you. And always be a good citizen. If you did enjoy watching this video, please like it, share it, and do well to subscribe to our YouTube channel. I remain Dorcas Ike Oluokun, and I love you all.